consideration for using the cane is using the cane in a spinning action. If we've ever worked with PR-24, side handle batons, or tonfas in Asian martial arts, this kind of a tactic is widely used. Now we can use the cane in the exact same manner. Basically what we're looking to do is to invert the crook handle, whether it be a derby handle like this or a crook cane handle. If the handle's big enough, it might permit all 4 fingers to be on there. Generally, I don't have an enormous hand, but with my hand size, I can get my bottom 3. And as we know from all gripping exercises, the bottom 3 are primary for strength. So in this case, conventional cane, bottom 3 fingers, index fingers on top, thumb is here. And so what we're looking to do is first, without moving our feet at all, see how we can make a path for the cane across the body. The brake, the stopping mechanism, is the rib in this case. There's tremendous power just here. If we look at the legs, even without pivoting, there's some degree of sway. So even if I have limited mobility, I can still deliver my hip to some degree. Right? The most important strike is the forward strike. And then after that, I can look at when it's fully racked on the body, how I can come back from it. As it gets more comfortable, as with everything else, again, if the mobility is there, I can look at how I can use my pivot. So my pivot should deliver the hip, rather the hip should deliver the pivot and the stick at the same time. A very good learning modality for that is to think of the hip swaying as we do with all of our pivots before moving the foot. Hip sways and leads, and then arriving in my tap at the same time as I arrive in my break. Coming back is the inverse of this. From that full spun position, opening the hip first, hip leads the pivot and arrives at the same time the heel comes down. The key thing to remember when striking is that most people will strike and impact their target at sort of an adverse angle. If you were my target in my center line, they hit like this. The goal is to think of having that fully in line with the forearm at the moment of impact. That being said, even if I don't have it fully aligned, I'll still generate some power, but I'll have tremendous power loss and more difficulty controlling the impact recoil. We'll show you this in a second on the wavelengths. So guys, a very common failure when actually applying the rotational spin to a target with impact is the alignment and the recoil. Again, rather than arriving at the moment of impact fully in line with the forearm, the stick will tend to be here. So what we see is that without a pivot, I can still generate some degree of power if I have decent alignment. If I hit with my arm going through the target well before the stick hits, or touching and then passing through without a solid grip, I will have significantly less power. Significantly less. So the idea is to see how, even from a straight position, I can arrive into this position via the pivot, and ideally, how can I start almost from a racked position, off to the side, deliver and arrive at the moment of elongation, right? At the moment of elongation. So a very simple drill is to think of how can I get there and just freeze it at that moment of elongation. Yeah. And then through. Likewise in reverse, not striking with a significant bend, but just very lightly loading my hips, pointing. Loading my hips, pointing. And then as it gets more comfortable, going through. So there's tremendous power by virtue of the swing. And of course, the same would be true of a straight up hit. Preferably, I mean, if it's any complexity for you there, using it like this is always preferable. But if I'm already in this kind of a position and I need a quick transition, that allows me to go, switch my grips, and work up. So again, don't do this because it looks fancy. It's an intermediate skill with the cane, but one that's fairly easily mastered. If I'm already in my walking position, seeing here how I can use this to clear, to ward, even in figure 8 actions, before switching grips, going back to my rifle or whatever grip I wish, or hooking and trapping, can be at least something worth considering.